Okay, so we got 3 signatures so far.
Not bad.
Yeah, that was more than we got at the beach.
And there you got your more learned people.
And that's the thing. It's like you're supposed to know better, but then you don't practice the understanding of that, right? And this isn't actually complicated.
Yeah.
You know, it's not actually that hard to understand objective truth behind it.
Yeah. Hello, Ma.
Yeah, so I was wondering about we can stand with Jehovah's Witnesses not necessarily with them, but like saying, tell me this whole Jehovah's Witness thing, what it's all about.
You know what's funny? I had a conversation with him yesterday. Myself, the guy you saw, Sheldon. He's
Right.
like the main guy. He's our leader, so to speak.
Oh, okay.
We go with him. So him and I, we had a discussion with the witnesses right here. How it started, I came with the petition for them. I just wanted to see what would they say.
You gave the petition?
I offered. I wanted to see what they'd say.
Sure, okay.
Then basically this guy says, no, we don't sign that. I'm like, okay. They said, then this one guy, like the older guy, he said, God is going to come and destroy the world system. So why do we need to get rid of, abolish abortion? Why do we have to do that? That's their understanding.
Right.
He thinks the whole world is run by the devil. The Bible says that the world is under the sway of the wicked one.
Sure.
We know that.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you mustn't practice
you persist against it. That's the whole idea of walking in faith and truth, and Christ saves you from that. So you don't have to be, because it's either you're for Satan or you're for Jesus, right? There's no like on the fence. There's no like, well, I believe in God but not in Jesus or whatever. And then one thing I have, so that's very telling about Jehovah's Witnesses. One thing they seem to, like we discussed it, where they don't believe Jesus is God.
Oh yeah, we spoke about that.
And
what stumped them? They were going quote unquote well against us. Like I say, not really, but they think they are.
Yeah.
You see, one of their tactics is they jump from one thing to another.
Move the goalposts.
And that guy told us, don't jump, we're not rabbits. But he is busy jumping.
Yeah.
He asks a question, then he gets into one theological topic. Then he gets to another one. Says he believes the Bible. We get to Luke 16, it was, about the story of Lazarus and the rich man.
Sure.
Then we explained, our point was, it's a parable, but he's speaking about heaven or hell. His point before this was, after you die, you just die, soul sleep, basically. You're buried and that's it. They don't believe in heaven or hell.
Really?
Yeah, they don't believe in that. That was his point. So we took him to that parable. And then he was he's surprised, he didn't expect us to go there. And his literature probably doesn't have anything as to what to do when someone mentions that. So we could see he was like trying to...
He shouldn't have any other literature except for the Holy Bible.
Yeah,
so
he has the Holy Bible.
And he
has their Bible.
So they have their own Bible.
Their own Bible. And they've got literature from the Watchtower. So that's where they get their Bible study from. So their worldview is coming from the Watchtower. The Watchtower tells them how to interpret the Bible, basically.
What is the Watchtower?
The Watchtower is part of the JWs. It's an organization that prints out the findings and Bible study, all their literature is the Watchtower. The Watchtower is based in America. It's a printing company.
But that just sounds like people throwing out, this is what I think, and therefore they just make it. So like, what I mean is, this printing place, what it sounds like is they'll write an article or whatever, but they don't publish it as an article, they publish it as doctrine. But it means how much is someone's opinion, right? So it's just someone that...
It's their own theologians.
Yeah. So it's like, this is what I think is true, and that's that, right? But anyway.
Yeah.
So,
but, he was flabbergasted. He didn't know what. He was surprised. And in the end, you know what he told me? We told him we want to see him in heaven one day. He said, no, I don't want to go there. Basically, he said, even if there was a heaven, I won't go there. I don't want to go there.
So why should anyone become a Jehovah's Witness?
That's the thing. And you know what he said? What really frustrated me, he said, there is no forgiveness for the people in the church. He said, I want you to know one thing. There is no forgiveness for church people. Like the kind, objective truth man that started the conversation, he just shifted. He changed everything when he said that.
Like his and like his whole attitude,
Yeah,
he
change.
kind of showed his own truth, you know. And I see that as well. Something as simple as abortion, in the sense of abortion is a murder, yes or no, really gets people going.
Yeah.
And they'll really. I had something happen to me as well, where, like I was talking about how you'll be disappointed by your family and friends you thought would be convicted of this truth, but they're not. Happened to me last week. A family friend of mine said, "Well,
Hello, Ma.
hey ladies." Family friend of mine was talking to me about my faith, New Apostolic, saying how New Apostolic's a charismatic heretic faith. I'm thinking, well, no, it's not. We simply believe that Christ is King, the gospel message as it is, and then we believe that, and you recognize the apostles. So New Apostolic is following apostles' teaching as taught by Christ.
Absolutely.
And then I think her issue was it was just written down in this book and was married with Old Apostolic, which is a heretic faith. So then she just said to me, basically, the church to go to is this church. And I don't want to really name the church, but anyway.
Yeah, no problem.
She was like, you go to this church. And I was like, well, I went to that church, actually, in my area, and they said they're not signing my petition. Why would they say that if they are followers of Christ?
Okay.
And basically I said to her, you claim that this church is sound,
Yeah.
but to me, they are, they contradict the gospel, which then means that, what's the word? They compromise on the gospel, which means they are hypocrites of their faith. Right. So I said they're hypocrites. And then she got very upset by that, because now it's like I'm calling her out on her church, basically, because that's the church she went to. She's since retired now. And so I was talking, and then I said to her, what do you say? Abortion is murder, right? And she's like, yes, I know it's murder, and I know it's wrong. But I believe what I believe. And it was basically that stance that other lady had at the beach of, I know it's wrong, but I let other people can do what they want to do. That was her stance, right? And I was like, but if you know it's wrong, why are you allowing it to happen? And you're allowing it to happen where it's sanctioned under law. All right?
I didn't just take a wallet and say, well.
Yeah, like what prevents me, I didn't say this, but like based on that logic, if you know rape is wrong, but you let other people rape, you're essentially condoning that rape, right? So, or like if the law said that rape was now legal and no one was taking a stand against it, you would be the one saying, I know it's wrong, but I just think to myself, well, if the guy wants to rape, he should rape, which is, of course, horrific. That's the same argument, right? So, and yeah, it went back and forth a bit. She sent a bit of a nasty voice note to my mom, because she knows my mom, and we went back and forth with it as well. And so yeah, we were like, well, kind of broke contact, and that was that. And it was the point I'm trying to make is she was a very outspoken woman, where she didn't really mince her words, and you could respect that about her. And we always saw her as this like sweet woman, in her 70s, and then she really got her teeth out, when we were just talking about abortion. And it's like, it's one way or the other, it's one way or the other. You either against it, or you are for it by allowing for it even,
Yeah.
And she seemed to be of the latter, and it was very disappointing. So, and she was like challenging me and saying, well, how well versed are you on the Bible? As if that's somehow some sort of, like you have to be credible by being well versed in the Bible to say that abortion is murder. Which, yes, like in the sense of course you would want to be well versed in the Bible. You want to understand the scripture. But, and then she like challenged me on things that happened to me in my past. And I'm thinking, but why would you do that as a Christian? Like, you would want the person to be repentive, and bring up their past is not Christ-like, surely.
You don't think maybe she got an abortion when she was younger?
She was challenging me on my history, where when I was overseas, I engaged in adultery. I was with someone, so we slept together. She fell pregnant, and she miscarried. Then we then broke up, went our separate ways. But she then tried to get back together with me by saying that she was pregnant a second time.
Oh.
And then I verified that this was not true. And then she told me, well, she's going to go have an abortion. Now, back then, I was, and you'll hear this a lot, where abolitionists were pro-life. And I was. And I kind of looked at it and I said, well, if you want to have an abortion, okay, you know, I sanctioned it. And it turned out that she wasn't pregnant to begin with.
Okay.
And it was all a ruse. So she went so far as to, like, I walked her into the hospital. I sat outside the doctor's room. She went in, and I don't know what she did, but she sat inside for like 20 odd minutes and then came back out and said, okay, it's done. And I'm thinking, okay. I didn't actually know any better. Like, I didn't know what the procedure was or what it's like. This was a different country as well. I didn't understand their language. And then, but I had to be repentant of, in my mind and in my heart, allowing for that to happen, right? And even though it didn't happen, it doesn't mean that I wasn't necessarily in the clear. So anyway, long story short, came back home, you know, and she was the one who herself said none of this was true, you know. And so I was like, okay, because it was weighing on my mind, but she just said, no, she wasn't pregnant to begin with, right? So anyway, this family friend of mine, she brought that up. And she was like, didn't you have an experience with abortion, but now you're against abortion? Trying to point out that now suddenly I'm a hypocrite of abolishing abortion because I've...
Only Satan does something like that, brings up your past sins. God doesn't remind you of your past sins.
No, sure.
No.
So it's like, well, and I'm thinking, like, really? What? I've worked through this. I don't mind you bringing it up. There's consequences to sin. All right. I'm able to account for it and say, yes, that was wrong. Of course, right? But do I have to be ashamed of it? No, because I am forgiven through Christ. So I've repented of it, and then I go and don't sin no more. I don't ever, for example, I've never done it since, of course, but I would never ever tell my wife that we should have an abortion. Like, no, of course not. So we have 2 kids as a result. Anyway, yeah, so that's been like my most recent experience with someone who I thought was, and this is someone I've known for years, you know, since I was 20. So, yeah, almost 10 years.
How it divides us.
Yeah, but this is like, yeah, it really gets the clause out. When someone's for it, they are for it, and they'll sign it. And then you'll see when someone doesn't want to sign, and you say, why don't you want to sign? Hey, then the teeth come out. Sometimes people walk away before that happens, so they're just like, listen, let me think about it. And you're like, okay, cool. Like some people in my church as well. And but yeah, you're either for it or you're against it, you know.
What's the age restriction on the petition? Is it under 18 not allowed, or is there any age?
I don't look up. I hadn't thought about that. I think what I would want is, it's a case of law where the petition is essentially a vote, right? And I would think that if you are voting age, which is 18, then petition signature recognition would mean that you would need to be 18 for this to be recognized on the petition, your signature. Because you're essentially voting against abortion. You're voting for abolishing abortion.
Yeah. But I wonder how many petitions we need, like 1,000, 2,000, 10,000.
And it's a case of not necessarily the amount, but from which areas of the country. For it to become, because it affects the nation, and you want it to be a nationwide law, it needs to go to, obviously, Constitutional High Court, etc. But it needs, the petition itself, I can't just have signatures from KZN. Because it's like, why should KZN signatures affect the rest of the country? I need to also get signatures from at least every province, surely. But if not, we can start with KZN and understand if there's like a case of, but we don't have that. We don't have like separations of like in America they have state laws. We don't really have that in South Africa. We'll have national law. We don't have provincial law necessarily. So yeah, good question. But yeah, I would think it's 18 and above in terms of voting, right? Hello. How are you? People read the sign and then you're like, hey, I saw you reading the sign. What do you think? But then they just carry on.
I don't know. Yeah, as much as you get a larger number of people that you think that are against it, but actually not, you also still have a big amount of people who agree with it. It's like, yeah. So they wouldn't put these free abortion clinic stickers up unless people are, actually going for it.
Well, it's like, yeah, or people just, the society as a whole, they don't condemn child sacrifice yet.
Yeah.
That's true across the world, but so society's been so accepting of it that, yeah, it's just brazen. It's just everywhere. Like, we'll take an example of that one now. But
yeah, I actually heard a story, believe this or not. I saw it on the video. There was a question going around. It's on Facebook, I think. About abortion clinics, free abortion clinics. Not free, but abortion clinics. Like these ones, illegal. The question was, South Africa has the most liberal laws on abortion than a lot of the world.
yeah, our laws are quite
Yet,
liberal, yeah.
these clinics, the women are going to these clinics, not going to the government ones.
Yeah.
And the question is, how come? I think, bro. Question is, how come?
Yeah.
So apparently, I don't know if this is 100% true, but this is what they are saying. The ladies, the nurses that perform these abortions, they make it very difficult for the ladies to have an abortion.
Okay.
Some of them it's because of religious reasons, some of them because personal convictions.
Okay.
It was encouraging to hear at the very least.
That it's the nurses themselves that are literally just turning them away.
Yeah, because they don't want it. But the government, I think when Nelson Mandela was around, that's when it became legal.
Yeah, 1996. It was passed in 1996. Yeah, so it became like they kind of feigned it as the old law was apartheid era law that needs to be got some wind. That needs to be abolished, and in the sense that we're abolishing apartheid, and all the laws under apartheid are now to be changed, including the laws surrounding abortion. And of course, under apartheid law, abortion wasn't actually abolished. It allowed for cases of rape and incest. And then there wasn't like anything about medical, because of course there's no reason to medically terminate your child. And that was seen as apartheid era restrictive racist law, right? And so then they linked it with apartheid. They were like, this is an abortion law that's wrong. It was made by angry racist white people, or whoever you want to blame, and that needs to be changed.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. Despite huge amounts of pushback, they just passed it anyway. It went to court. There was a court case, a trial. the trial itself was ridiculous. I read through the minutes. They weren't the courts or the defense of the law cited zero objective truth. They were just like, they're not informed by science or any religion, they're informed by the Constitution. So that's correct. The law is informed by the Constitution. So this is actually about the Constitution rather than just about the law, where our Constitution says everyone has the right to life. But then the court was like, well, we're going to define everyone only as a born human being is under the category of everyone.
I'd personally like to go to court myself. It's not going to happen, but I'm just saying, in my imagination this happens. I'd like to go to court and instead of appealing to science or appealing to anything else, appeal to the Constitution, but appeal to the emotional side. So like say to them, you can do anything, you're free unless you're truthful, unless you are a child. If a person is black, they are entitled to a lot of things. That's how our laws are these days. How hard is it for a white man or an Indian guy to get a job these days?
Sure.
We are so, as South Africa, we say that we are for human rights, but what about the unborn? We are for all human rights except for the unborn. And just navigate that stance there, that point, that argument. I think it'll catch them.
The thing about the emotion argument or like appealing to emotions, that's what pro-life movement does. What you want to appeal to is convicting emotion, yes, because you want to change hearts and minds, but you're using science, you're using logic. You don't have to be afraid to use God's word, because you're stating, I'm informed by God's word, where I believe we're all created in God's image, which gives us intrinsic value. That's why it's wrong to murder any innocent human being.
Yeah.
Science, of course, confirms that life begins at conception. So now I'm stating that God's word is my objective code. Science confirms my objective code. So therefore, what is this law and what is our Constitution informed by, if not God's word and not science? And if it's not informed by anything objective, well then what are we doing? How can we stand on our Constitution if the foundations aren't sound, right? And the thing about emotion, the emotion argument, or like appealing to emotions, is that's exactly what the pro-choice side does. That's exactly what the pro-life side does, be it for or against abortion.
Yeah.
And the issue with that is, okay, for example, the pro-choice uses emotion in the sense of like, this is a difficult situation, abortion saves the woman from the situation, just to offer a general argument from the pro-choice side. Pro-life side uses emotion where they only talk mostly regarding second trimester and third trimester abortion.
Yeah.
So they'll be like, that's barbaric, that's barbaric, that's barbaric. And then what you feel obligated to point out to them though is it's actually first trimester abortions where you see more, 70% odd of abortions happen in first trimester. Are you sanctioning those ones?
When you say trimester, you mean like
first 3 months.
First 3 months, okay.
Right, okay. So first
you're talking about the development
12 weeks.
The fetus.
Sorry?
You're talking about like the development stages of
yes,
the fetus.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So trimester is first 3 months, second trimester is next 3 months, which is now 6 months.
Okay.
Third trimester is 9 months. So
they measured by the 3 months.
Yeah, it's just trimester in the sense because every pregnancy lasts 9 months.
Okay.
So you have 3 months, 3 months, 3 months.
Okay.
Trimester is 3 months.
Okay.
So in South Africa, every first trimester child in the womb, in first trimester, that mother can abort that child for any reason. All right. Anyway, pro-lifers talk about second trimester and third trimester a lot. Vacuum and suction, tearing the baby apart, injecting the baby's heart, and giving birth to a stillborn. That's all barbaric, of course, but that's like using emotion. And you're saying, well, okay, pro-lifer, That's, of course, extremely barbaric. But shouldn't it all be barbaric, right? And why are you only appealing to, these, like, their artwork, their videos, their social media, their we do it too, in that we'll show examples of it, but our argument doesn't rely on it, and theirs does. Their argument relies on these trimesters are wrong, and this is, of course, the whole reason, the whole idea behind it is to, like, because they want to incrementally move the bar down. So they're saying, well, it's barbaric in third trimester, it's barbaric in second trimester,
Okay.
because that's their first goal
Yeah.
of moving the bar down. And then, meantime, all the other image bearers below that stage, they free game.
Yeah.
So I'm very wary, like, when someone says appeal to emotions, I'm like, well, sure, we want to change their hearts and minds, but why? And we also want to know from objective truth, it's all bad and it's all wrong, right? So, yeah, I agree, though. Like, I suppose what you mean is go to Constitutional Court and see their hearts and minds change, or hopefully, like, we can show them examples. This is realities.
Yeah.
What happens during an abortion. And you say to those who are lawmakers, understand the reality, understand the facts we've given you, and understand that abortion is murder.
Yeah.
All right?
Well, for me, actually, what I'm more meant, I didn't articulate it so well, but emotions, yeah. But the whole argument that I love, like, it's even on the T-shirt. The Lord will arise for the oppressed. The people in the womb are people. They are being oppressed. Because in our country, it's all about human rights. Human rights is a big thing. Like with the whole Black Lives Matter happens in America. We didn't have that, but apartheid is still a thing for us. And
The effects of apartheid are still shown. Yeah.
when it seems as though a black person, because of their color, is being mistreated, it's a big thing in this country.
Yeah.
Everybody is like hopping on it, the media, government, everyone. Why? Because they believe that black people are people that have been oppressed and they are deserving of rights. So what about the people in the womb? Their rights too. Like with us, what is our original logo for the abolitionists say? Am I not a human and a brother? That's just when in America, when the black man was being oppressed during slavery. That was their motto, the abolitionists.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing.
Of
If we
course.
can appeal to the people that it's a person and it is being oppressed and it's deserving of rights. Because our constitution seems to favor the rights of everyone, including the woman. What about the child?
Yeah. So
that's the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the argument I'd like to get at as well.
And
Because
you'll see that's essentially what they did in '96, like the Christian Lawyers Association that took us to court and said, no, this is wrong. They did that, right? So they were like, life begins at conception. We knew this since the 70s,
Yeah.
at least, I think we knew even before then, but yeah, since the 70s. And so it's well-known, reasonable, observable truth, right?
I think so.
And they were like, no, the science, this is what the science tells us,
Yeah.
that it's a human being
Yeah.
from that point. Be it an embryonic stage of development or whatever stage of development it is, it's a human being. Government just said, well, we're not informed by science.
Yeah.
And that's how they struck it off. They were just like, well, we're not going to listen to the science because we can't let science dictate our laws. So to a point, they have a point to an extent, because the science. So we're not saying that abortion is murder because of what the science tells us, right? The science confirms it, but we're saying that abortion is murder. Science confirms it. That's our evidence. They saying. And like, you can't use science to define society's morals and things, because the science just simply tells you what is happening, right?
Yeah.
So it's like the science just simply is a way to observe.
Yeah.
All right. So I've observed life begins at conception. Now, what does that mean for society? Then you apply morals to that, what you can observe. It's not necessarily the science dictating the moral.
Yeah.
So that was the court's point. The problem though is by saying that they're not informed by science, that's evidence, right? That scientific observation is evidence in terms of this trial. It was evidence against abortion. They simply did away with the evidence,
Yeah.
which is unconstitutional, surely, right?
Yeah. So what will we do differently this time?
There needs to be an understanding of objective morals attached to objective truth. And I think what they did wrong, not that they did wrong, I mean, there was a sincere effort, of course, and the government itself was, ridiculously unreasonable. I think what is to be done differently is the arguments that were given need to be the arguments given for abortion during that court trial weren't actually addressed. I don't think, right? So like the prosecution, I'm talking about like the Christian lawyers, they made their points. The courts then said, your points are invalid because we're not informed by religion or by science under the Constitution. The court isn't. And that wasn't addressed. And there were certain things in there. I need to actually read through it again, and maybe we can do it like we will have a discussion about it.
Yeah.
But there were things in there that I felt that could have been done more thoroughly. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but you don't have to be a lawyer to then understand, well, there's a goal. Like if you're going to win this in court, there's a clear goal that has to be done. For example, you have to prove this without a doubt, or you have to. It's all about evidence and proof, and that's what then informs the law, or that's what it should be about,
Yeah.
right? And I think what they did, or what they didn't get quite right, was matching the arguments from the government or the defense of the 96 abortion law.
Sure.
They didn't match those arguments directly. Maybe they weren't allowed to, I don't know. But and there was also a case, and there needs to be, well, this is my objective, not, okay, I'm going to compromise on this objective, or let's negotiate. There's no negotiating. It's murder. So what I think also, there was one party that took it to court in 2006 or 2008, something. I don't want to say the party, but they said, well, we want to abolish it, or at least bring the bar down. And you're like, but hold on, that's a compromise. So from a defense perspective, it's like, well, what's your goal? You don't even understand your goal if you're trying to compromise on your goal. So there needs to be no compromise, and there needs to be one stated objective that then obviously has one solution presented to it. So I mean, hopefully that's something we can realize. And I mean, like you'll even see on the National Alliance for Life group, NAL, it's great. Like they'll post a lot of live action socials. Like they'll post a lot of pictures and videos from live action. You're like, yeah, cool. Very pro-life in that sense. And then, I'm like, yeah, great. Like, we're understanding life in the womb. We're understanding that. That's great. But I then challenged organizations like Live Action, and I'm like, guys, what's the deal? Are you calling yourselves abolitionists or not? Right? What I also noticed on that group was, for example, with the regulation committee, like Section 22 thing, that was. I said to the group, I said, why do we not want this to be passed? And the response was, because I don't trust the committee. And I'm like, that's not an answer though.
Well, say it again. What were you?
So the question was, I said to them on the group,
okay,
why do you not want this new law? Because the law was by church leaders. Church leaders were actually wanting to pass a law that regulates church.
Okay, yeah. Talking about all SAD, South African Church Defenders against CIR commissions.
Sure,
That one. Okay,
exactly.
yeah,
That's exactly it. Yeah. So the thing about that was, my objections to it was, even those church leaders putting this forward, I'm more than happy to challenge the church leaders because their reasoning was not sound at all. But then I asked on the group, I was like, why do we not want to see this passed? And I mean, of course, it should be obvious, but I want to know the reasons. And then I was told, well, because I don't trust the committee and I don't trust those church leaders. I'm like, okay, why? You're not telling me why. You're not telling me your reasons. So when you ask someone, why should abortion be abolished? And they say, because it's bad. And you say, well, why is it bad? Any reasonable person would say, yes, it's bad to murder any other innocent human being. But then when you dig deeper, it's like, well, why is it bad? Well, it's because we made an image of God. Now, my point I'm trying to get at is, when we approach this as an abortion issue, it shouldn't be, and it isn't actually, it shouldn't be directly assumed that everyone's got the same objective. And we know this when we're approaching churches, right? So when we approach churches and we say, abortion is to be abolished, sign my petition, they say no. We're like, but I thought this is an obvious issue for you, right? And I think what they got wrong as well in 96 was it was just assumed that, I mean, people did rise up and people did voice their concerns, but maybe there was just more that needed to be done.
Yeah.
And then, of course, with the Section 22 committee, it's still in the courts, I think. But I feel like there was no real, like, why is this wrong? And here's why. There's just, well, it's wrong because it's wrong. You know, there's no clear distinction of why. So my reasoning was, it's wrong because even those church leaders that want to regulate, who's it being enforced by? The government. It's being enforced by government services, police. All right, and we've already laid out in the Constitution that government is not to be controlling of the church at all. Right? Church is free to engage as church should. If there's issues against how members are treated, etc., then yes, of course, there'll be an investigation because it's illegal to mistreat people in any way, right? One of the church and some of the church leaders' conditions of regulation, they were saying denominations need to stop arguing amongst themselves and just leave each other be. And you're like, but that goes against the gospel message. That goes against what Christ is trying to define.
Yeah.
I should be allowed to challenge any other denomination and say, why is your denomination truth? Because it's about truth.
Yeah.
They misquoted scripture. They provided, there was a scripture out of, I think it was Peter. I forget the exact quote. And I'm like, but that's not applicable to what you're trying to do at all. They tried to make it sound like it was. And I was like, that's not the same context. It was ridiculous. So I don't know if these church leaders are compromised in some way, or they were paid in some way, or what the story is, but I looked through the documents and I'm like, here's why I see this as wrong.
I think you'll find a lot of that. Unfortunately, I don't want to say this, but I think it's true. I'm not saying that therefore all churches are bad, obviously, you know.
No,
but,
sure.
I think you'll find a lot of compromise. Some of them are just, they're using church as a front, as a cover up, so that's why they're also on board with the SA, with the South African Church Defenders. I think you will find a lot of what you just said now. But also some of them, they're hopping onto those who already started this. Like everybody's just doing it because the next person is doing it. They agree, yeah, it's bad, but like,
why is it,
why is it bad?
Yeah. And like, so if you're going to regulate church, you're going to regulate how the church reacts to things like abortion.
Yeah.
Suddenly I'm going to be told, well, the church says that you can't do this, so therefore you will not do this. Right? And I'm like, what?
Also, it's an open door, because if the government becomes fully communist government, what's going to happen to us?
Yeah, no more information.
Yeah.
no more information will be shared freely. Exactly. And it starts with those little steps, you know?
Yeah. That's how it always begins.
And that's what I'm saying. I think these church leaders are compromised in some way. Because if you're for Christ, and by the way, this was not necessarily regulating other religions and other faiths.
Yeah.
This was only the regulation of Christianity. Only. Why?
Yes.
Right? Like, why is it Christianity that has to be regulated? Why should it be, even if it's coming from church leaders, why are we only regulating one faith? So yeah, it was very, so that's what I think we need to bring, like if this goes to court and we finally, not if, but when we do go to court and we say abortion is to be abolished under the law, we should not assume that the court or anyone who's defending abortion should be aware, or just it should just be established that it's obvious, or the reasons for why it's wrong should be obvious to everyone. Yes, they are, but we need to treat it as if it's not.
Yeah.
So you treat it as if it's not so obvious, which we've seen.
I'm not sure. What should we go in?
It depends, but maybe soon, because I see.
Today it's Sunday.
Yeah, maybe in the next 1 hour, half an hour.
Yeah, give it another.
They come pick
half
your
an
lamp
hour.
or you got a break.
No.
Go to the van, yours van.
Yeah. So it's like, well, we shouldn't assume that it should be obvious. Why are we stating that it's wrong? We should state why it's wrong and articulate that well. And it should be a case of where the argument is completely irrefutable. All right? And when we try to refute it, then the person who's refuting it is seen as the one who is unreasonable, unjust, and wrong. You know? So yeah, there needs to be like that. There needs to be that like scene.
Yeah.
Basically, you only deal with abortion. You don't do any advice to youngsters.
No, we do.
Drug abuse,
Yeah.
like social advising.
Yeah.
That's a job I want.
Sure.
Because there where I stay now, where I'm rented, there's about 7 children that I already social advised them. Their parents are drug addicts, cigarette smokers. Their children, they don't even use the word sister. They don't smoke cigarette. They know there's things there. Once you start from the cigarette, it's gonna lead you to the bigger hole. That's how I make them to understand. That it all starts from the cigarette, the two-pull of the cigarette. Eventually, the cigarette doesn't stop the problem that you are getting comfort from, and then you continue to maybe darker. From darker, it goes to another drug, and it continues. Come in now.
Sure.
That's my life. I'm always